everybody on here. One of the reasons I wanted to, well, the main reason I wanted to get into this topic was there's a lot of people concerned about the state of sport, and I think we even talked a bit about that in our previous calls. But people are looking at different moves career-wise, I think, because of what's happening, and it's not just in sport; it's in every industry, and I'm sure we could all cite examples. But people are going like, okay, how is the future going to look? Is this the best place for me to be in terms of my long-term? One was health that was brought up last time, but also just financial security. And I think sometimes people, if you've been involved in sport, it's not necessarily the most intelligent financial decision you've made in your life, but certainly, are there other things that people are looking at right now, or should we just stay the course and just tough through this, and everybody's going to get through it and just keep doing what you're doing? So I'm going to start with Rob with his business acumen and his nice eyebrows, but certainly if you were advising somebody, Rob, nowadays, like you have a young person going, hey, what should I get into? What industry? And I really like sports. Should I get into sports? What kind of advice are you going to be offering at this day and age?
Yeah, I would encourage anybody to get into something that they really desire. I really would, because you got to like what you do, or else you're never going to last. And if you're in a situation now where you have to deter a little bit to make a living, then so be it. I think I'm convinced we're going to come out of this. We have to come out of this, right? So, and I hate to make analogies based on poor instances in the past, but if you look at 9/11, right? I mean, the main thing that we probably got out of 9/11 was the screenings we have at airports and those types of things. So what's beneficial going through this crisis will stay. I think 9/11, life resumed to normalcy overall after instances like that, or Hurricane Sandy, or all these other things we've been through, at least here in New York. And I think it's the same here. I think as sports go back, what is beneficial to sport will stay, and then the rest of it will come back as the new normalcy, for lack of a better expression. I think you just have to adapt. I was thinking about this when I got the email yesterday. When I first started many moons ago in medicine, when you went to the operating room, there was an attending physician and an assistant attending physician. When you went on the floors, they were all nurses, right? When you went on a floor, they're all physical therapists. What happens now? You have an attending physician and you have a physician assistant. You might have, instead of 8 therapists, you might have 4 therapists and 4 physical therapy assistants. Where your dentist did everything, now you have dental technicians. So whether it's due to finance, whether it's due to evolvement of the field of the profession, whatever it may be, you will adapt going forward. And that's what I think will happen now. And so if you really have a desire to stay in strength and conditioning, and that's your passion and your love, I would advise that you do that. If you have to adapt to the new normalcy, whatever that may be, then you will adapt. And moving forward, that's how you'll coach. That's how you'll address strength and conditioning. So that's my perspective on it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that yes, we're going to get through this, and people will adapt, but there probably will be a few shifts here and there. And I like talking to Ken Vick about this, because he seems to have a good sort of measure on the pulse of like the industry, especially on the private side. Ken, what kind of feedback are you getting? One, from just even people wanting to come back and train, but also from people who are, say, staff or employees. Like, are they kind of wondering like what's happening here and where should I place myself?
Well, it's a lot of stuff. What would I share? Wow, where to start? Anything like this, I guess I would say, is a forcing function, meaning it's going to make everybody step back, whether it's a business owner, it's an employee, it's a client. Everybody steps back and goes, okay, what's next? What's going on? What's important to me? So from the business side, I think, well, from the client side, right? Because there's no jobs if you don't have clients. So clients are going, what do they want? I see people wanting to come back. I see people coming back. I see that growing. So there's going to be a need. Sports aren't going away. They're part of our culture. Health and wellness is still growing, and in some cases, this might make people more concerned about their health or wellness. So there's demand, right? And so then it becomes for people, how do they serve that demand? How does that become a job? How does that become a business? I think the modes will change. I think there'll be evolution in skills and delivery, how big of groups, digital delivery, really a growth in coaching skills and connection skills, because those are what have helped some people have success through this. So I think that'll change. Is it still a career? Yeah, if you want it to be. I mean, it was never the career you were going to take if your number one goal was, financial growth. Although I think it's possible. So it kind of comes back to, hey, why are you doing this? Do you want to be in this? Okay, great. Where are you going to go? Is it more sports med? Is it more private? Is it more this or that? Things will change. It's just making people ask questions they might have already been asking or probably should have been asking already.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just in terms of adaptability and kind of seeing where things are shifting. Like this was just a very, very dramatic shift, I guess. And now it's kind of forcing us. And I
can't hide.
Yeah, you can't hide. And I was talking to, I'll get Eric Marriott to jump on. Eric, we had talked about this, and even this idea of jumping to telehealth. Like it wasn't so much like, are you a good physiotherapist, but can you adapt in terms of dealing with people in this telehealth environment? And that was probably the toughest thing that you had encountered with some of the staff, right?
Yeah, it's, everyone's got their own way they conceptualize of what they do, both from the provider's end and the client's end. And, some people are more rigid than others. And for us, like this like flipping this switch was the biggest challenge was helping our staff reconceptualize what they do, finding like a broader definition and a broader category so that they can keep doing what they do well and they can find enjoyment with it. And I think like what Rob said too, it's like we were for the last 2 months not in person, but I think a lot of my staff still found enjoyment in what they were doing, but it took a significant reconceptualization of how they saw their job and what they did. I just see that continuing from this point onward. Whether that be like in the telehealth world for us or in person, I think that kind of different frame of thought. Because I even had staff say to us now, it's like, well, I want to be pandemic proof. I want to be in the future. Like if this second wave is going to come, like how do I keep myself like pandemic proof? And that's kind of like an interesting kind of thought because there's lots of talk now here in Vancouver, like, oh, when's the second wave? So I'm trying to keep that kind of like mentality. Not that we're worried about it or we're like looking at that, but just continuing to be agile.
So pandemic proof, you mean like just in terms of their usefulness in this time and their ability to be productive?
Totally. Like we had so we're having a significant number of people now that I'm a physical therapist that are selecting to not come back to the clinic for in-person work because they enjoyed the telehealth and they thought I don't have to drive, I don't have to park downtown, I don't have to do all these things. I'm still getting better. The service you provided me was great. Let's just keep this going. And I think some of our staff didn't see that coming. Like they didn't see that this was going to stick around. They thought this is a temporary period of time. It's going to be over. We're going to go back to exactly the way it was, or that was kind of some of the thoughts they're kicking around. Whereas now they're like, oh, like I should continue doing this. And this is actually potentially a sustainable way for me to diversify what I do and for our clinic as well.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to change the way that you groom people and that like you kind of push them in terms of their professional development? Like, has this, aside from just like the content of being a good physical therapist of like the actual day-to-day, are you going to look for different types of personalities in terms of hiring types of people that can adapt? Has this changed anything?
Well, I mean, I think luckily, and it's sort of, I guess the proof is in the pudding. I'm just for my particular scenario, I think we kind of already had that. Maybe we didn't know we had that, but we were doing 70% of our pre-COVID volume in our clinical volume during these 2 months. So like, as an example, I think we kind of did have that, but now we'll look back and say, okay, like that is something we definitely need to have going forward. I don't think it changes what we do, because I think good people are still good people and good problem solvers are still good problem solvers. And I'm not sure that's changed, but maybe now it's more important than it ever was. We could not tolerate having someone who's not engaged.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's a more certain thing to say. Yeah.
Good point. Robert, I want you to jump in because we talked last week about just the dangers around returning COVID, and you were talking about, like, I don't know how old you are, but you were saying like, hey, I'm at this point in my career, I can't change. Either I'm going to keep doing this or I'm going to retire. What are you thinking about in terms of your skill set and your job and your career? And are you going to change anything, or are you just going to keep pushing forward?
Well, I'm 55.
Okay.
I'm not embarrassed to say that.
Nice eyebrows.
I thanks. My mindset has changed over the last few weeks, where I was very concerned that people weren't taking this seriously, that how is this actually going to take place, going back to training? How are you going to put 260 some odd athletes through a daily routine with, a social distancing limit? And, I was getting very frustrated because it's impossible. And then I kind of stepped back, even after just talking to you guys last week. And I said, you know what, whatever happens in terms of when we get back, whatever the lay of the land is, we'll just deal with it. This is what I do as a profession. I love it. I probably love it more now than I have when I got into it. And I'll just have to adapt, whether it's like, I forgot who mentioned, just kind of adapt as a coach, learning how to coach differently. It may have to be, I have to be clearer with how I describe something with my words, as opposed to physically going over to an athlete and correcting them. So that's me personally, how I'm going to have to adapt and change. And I think using this video platform is an excellent medium. My son's soccer club, they're starting to, say, hey, once COVID's done, we don't want to forget using this platform. And they're trying to do like online coaching for the kids, whether it's technical or video breaking down video, or, doing some skill work with the kid, because they're doing that now. Why lose it? You spend all this time first learning how to use this technology. Now you're just going to get rid of it. So they're really kind of adapting to that. And same with us, at the strength and conditioning and college level. Now rules are going to have to change. But I think, why can't you do some sort of, I don't know about, they're afraid of online coaching because of the legality of it, not being present in the moment with the athlete, and someone, God forbid, gets injured, which I'm 100% on board with that. But maybe there's other avenues you could use this platform to hopefully coach up athletes over the summertime, like our women's or men's soccer players or volleyball players who need someone to hold them accountable, motivate them, maybe explain certain drills a little bit more effectively through this medium. So I think, I'm more positive, I think, than I was last week.
We were worried about you.
Yeah, I was a little concerned. And crazy thing is, this is one of the things that changed it. We had a meeting as a athletic staff Zoom meeting last week, and our athletic director brought a friend of his on, and she climbed Mount Everest. Twice, made 2 attempts. First time, all female. She was the captain of the team, sponsored all this, failed to make it. Very, very disappointing to her. Then the second time she made it. And just hearing her talk about the whole experience and listing her goals, and her number one goal wasn't even to make the summit, which most people, I want to reach the summit. That was her 5th goal. Her number one goal was to go up and down and be alive. And her number 2 goal was to have all her fingers and toes, was number 2. I still can't remember 3 and 4, but number 5 was actually the goal, to reach the summit. So it kind of really, reevaluate how I was thinking this whole COVID thing going back. I'm so, I want to say afraid, but concerned about going back and what it's going to look like, instead of just making the plans. And then once we're back, we'll deal what we have to deal with. And if it means I have to wear a mask, if it means I have to social distance and coach better or use social media or this type of platform, I'll do it, because I'm not leaving this profession. I'm just going to have to adapt, or, there's only one other choice is to get out, and I don't want to do that.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. That was pretty interesting. Like, your priority is not necessarily let's win a national championship. It's don't die, right? So, I mean, that's really what she said.
Yeah, in essence, yeah. And just, it was a weird experience because I wasn't really interested in listening to her at first, because I've been very busy, not anything against her, but I've been very busy doing work. But I started listening, and I more and more, and I actually have a book. It's called Into Thin Air. I don't know if anyone has heard of it. And I bought that when it first came out and read it, and haven't looked at it since. I don't know how many years, 15 years ago. And it was weird how this kind of, all came full circle and has made a big impact. This one presentation by this person, really kind of changed the way I kind of thought about a lot of things.
Very cool. I would love to have heard that presentation.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
Ken, we're just going to pivot back to Ken. Ken wanted to add something in terms of vetting employees and.
As everybody's talking, I was thinking about one of the things we've heard. I think one of the potential benefits people aren't thinking about is this forcing functions making some people go, do I want this career, right? There is uncertainty. Maybe it's not going to make as much money as I thought, whatever it is. I'm actually seeing that as a good thing. As an employer, and this was a conversation I had with one of our locations, the owner there. He's like, this is a good thing. I realize who on my staff is passionate about this and wants to do it and is creating. And I realized who is just kind of here filling the boat. I mean, in the private sector, I'd say maybe we get more of it, but this has become like what used to be the psychology degree, right? So when I went to college originally, when people didn't know what they wanted to do, oh, we're gonna do psychology or something. Now it's kinesiology. If a kid doesn't know what they want to do, oh, I'm going to be in sports. I'm going to do kinesiology, and then they end up coming into the field. Well, here's a good thing. Maybe we're forcing some of them out when this isn't really where they want to be. So just something I remembered came up in conversation, and I'm kind of curious if anybody else has seen stuff like that or kind of sees it that way as well.
Yeah, Rob, have you seen, like, is this a good sort of vetting process? You kind of, trim the fat.
This is going to be opportunity, and it's going to be both sides of the scale. So, for instance, we've gone through this before the coronavirus, right? You've had to adapt, whether positively, negatively. When GPS came out, force plates came out, people adapt. People try to get better with things. There was no virus. You evolved your profession. Same thing's going to happen here because of, I don't want to use the word catastrophe, but because of the situation we're in. And people will continue to evolve whether this occurred or not. And some of the things that are going to evolve is you're going to say, I don't know this for a fact. I'm just using this as an analogy. I'm trying to think of Goldman Sachs. They send all their people home, right? Everybody's working from home. Goldman Sachs is going to say, do I need all this real estate, this rent costs? A lot of my people can work from home. Or companies that have sales teams, right? Their sales teams can work from home. You need to have that brick and mortar and pay for that rent moving forward once your lease expires, right? So now, going through this process, you're saying, okay, I put myself in a better financial situation. The con to that is, what are the landlords that own all these properties going to do? They're going to have to figure out and so they'll evolve, right? And so this is just a snowball going downhill. People will adapt going forward. The problem that happened here is everything was compressed. Everything happened all of a sudden, and we don't know where the finish line is. And so, head coaches, right? What happens to a head coach, regardless if you're a strength coach or sport coach? Many of them say, I had enough, and they become an AD. They change their career. They evolved. Same thing will happen to the people in this profession. If they were going to get out of it, chances are they're probably going to get out of it anyway. And if they want to stay in it, they will adapt to find their niche, whether it's sports science, an actual hands-on coach, you know, marketing and sales in sport, whatever. They'll find their niche to continue to evolve in sport.
Yeah,
So
it's like
it's always
the
been that way.
yeah, like the example that I heard recently was the video rental store, right? Like that, you know, oh yeah, that's a great business, and then boom, they're gone because
Yeah.
of Netflix, right? So
And as far as the legality, like, I don't know, telehealth, all right, for physical therapy, what if insurance companies stop paying for it? Because now they say the coronavirus is over, we're not going to pay for it. Well, adapt unless you have cash paying patients. If you're in the fitness and wellness field, you may say, I'm going to specialize in telehealth for the business executive who's too busy to come to the gym, to the postpartum mother who just gave birth and can't leave her baby at home, whatever. You'll evolve in a business of telehealth. But you've been doing Zoom meetings forever. There's been education online forever. As far as the legal, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't see much of a difference, and I could be 100% incorrect. For years, instructional videos have come out, right, to get you in shape at home. What's the difference in the legality of an instructional video versus a health, you know, Zoom telehealth type fitness product? I wouldn't think there's much in regards to the legal ramifications. They're both, right? Somebody came out with it, somebody's an instructor, and people are following that instructor. So again, I just think it's an opportunity for some. It's going to be a detriment to others, but both people are going to have to adapt to move forward to survive. It's
you
always been that way.
you mentioned the insurance companies and like continuing to cover telehealth. Do you think that's going to happen, and or do you think that there is going to be sort of this realigning of the goalposts and like the rules will be adjusted to make these things a little easier moving forward?
Unfortunately, I think a lot of it's going to be based on finance, right? So if telehealth visits are going to be reimbursed less, there may be a push to do more therapy or other things through telehealth for a financial benefit to the payer. If they're paid the same and it's convenient and the volume of people requesting healthcare, wellness, whatever, skyrockets because of this, they may say we're going to limit the accessibility of this. Again, this is just my surmising. I don't know anything definitively. So I think a lot of it also occurs in dollars and cents and feasibility. If the feasibility and the attractiveness promotes business and membership, which is revenue to them, then they may keep it going, right? So it's a factor of, to me, it's a factor of the finances. You know, what's most attractive when it comes
Yeah.
to payers, or anything. Just like us, right? If you're a personal trainer, what are the clients you're going to go after that's feasible for your financial gain, though you may have a love for it, you still have to live. And what client isn't feasible? What is your cost? What is your bottom line? Where are you willing to draw the line on a fee? It's no different.
Yeah, very good points. I want to get some of the guys who do train athletes. Francois, Francois, what are you doing moving forward? You've sent me some videos of stuff of some training you're doing individually, but are there some other things you're doing technology wise? And then I'll get Dino to jump in too about some of the groups he's working with. How are you adapting?
Yeah, moving forward, we do already doing a lot of Zoom consultation. Actually, I have one tomorrow morning with a baseball player, but we do a lot of video stuff. We do have a lot of online training moving on, especially with the guys. Some of the guys are overseas right now, stuck in Russia, stuck in the US. So we send them programs. We monitor them by some Zoom calls, FaceTime, whatever. But as a gym owner, also, that's a concern. You know, do I have to, sell my gym, sell my equipment, because the cost of equipment right now is skyrocket. So should I sell some stuff? That's a question I have to ask, because especially here in Quebec, we have no idea when the gyms are going to be open. We're allowed to train outside now, so we'll start going to the track on Monday, groups of 5, social distancing and everything. But as when I saw the press conference of our prime minister, when I saw the conference, he gave us a date. So right away, I text all the athletes that I train that are here in Drummondville or in Quebec, close to me. And I told them, let's go to the track and start doing at least like 2 workouts a week together. And for the rest, we're going to do like video training and with what you have accessible to you at home. So that's all you have to adapt. And also, my background is physical education teacher. So do I have to come back and do a little bit of teaching at fall if school is coming back or not to make ends meet? So it's all the questions that I'm asking right now. But like everybody, I'm pretty positive. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep doing what I do, but you have no choice to adapt to the current situation.
That's great. Good to hear, Francois. Dino, are you in the same kind of boat in terms of what you're doing with your athletes? And then, you're just going to keep pushing, the training in any way possible?
Yeah, we decided right off early in the game in March that we were going to do free online videos. So we used Instagram, seemed to be the most usable form. So we do 3 videos a week, 25 minutes long, where athletes can come on and do a workout with one of our coaches. They've had great response, and it's actually turned into other people contacting us and asking us if they could do a Zoom, or a lot of school districts and other organizations are using Microsoft Teams. So we're using those, and it's a combination of virtual and video training. So we use the video, and then the coach is there, and there's a combination of that. And I think that that's probably the route that's going to be that we're taking, is because as this opens up, it's going to open up slowly, and still some people aren't going to be comfortable. So we may end up with programs that are kind of half and half. Some are on and virtually, and some you're coaching live and you're videotaping that live coach, but also using the video. So in a sense, we've developed another product.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask people about, and Dino, you can start with this, but what about, like Rob said, like, are you adjusting pricing, going like, well, since we're doing stuff a little more virtually, we're going to drop that price, or is it the same price? And then I'll get Ken to jump in as well. But how are you treating the price sensitivity around what you feel is a good value, but at the same time, maybe you're concerned that the people paying you don't, are out of work or whatever. And how are you dealing with that?
Well, to be honest, we just decided to do a survey to ask people and say, hey, listen, you can do something online, you can do something virtually. It's probably going to be a little cheaper. You're going to need technology to be able to appreciate it fully, or we're going to have some live sessions. They're going to be a little bit more expensive because all indications is that the ratios are going to come down, right? So you're going to have one coach to 5 or 6 people, maybe less to start. And so, the cost has to go up with that. So it's still something that we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, there's going to be a new algorithm, I assume. Rob, you wanted to jump in, and then I'll get Ken to jump in as well. Thanks, Dino.
Yeah, I just want to say, in my experiences, Dino, I'd caution you, I wouldn't do anything for free, and I'll tell you why. I'll make an analogy. You ever hear about how people, like athletes with a team, maybe they don't trust the organization, but they'll always trust their private person. Why? Because they're paying for it. When you offer something for free, 1,000 people are going to sign up. So if you want to really see who's serious and make sure people have skin in the game, I would give a discounted rate for a period of time. And, your time is worth something. So you should get paid for your efforts. But when you offer something for free, you may not have the correlation you think when it comes time for people to pay. And I just caution you on that. I just think that you shouldn't give away your services for free. I would be interested in what Ken says, but that's my experience.
Ken, you want to jump on, and I'll let Dino jump on again too.
Do you give it away for free? Be real careful. I think there's a point to do it for marketing. We've seen it be successful in some cases when you need to build that audience or you need to get word out. I'm always a bigger fan, in all honesty, with our businesses to recommend don't give it away for free. Give something extra, give a different thing, but don't devalue. Like I've been a big proponent forever from my first business partner is, never devalue the base product. Give add-ons, do other things, but long term, especially in a recurring revenue business, once you devalue that, that can add up. So that's just my take. It's not that we never do it. We do sometimes, but we're really careful.
How about at this time? Like, are you looking at the prices and going, should we adjust? Or are you just kind of going like, this is what we've always done?
No, in all honesty, I mean, right now things have stayed relatively even. And we're looking at, if you're doing a remote one-to-one, it's still being charged in most of our places as a one-to-one. It's still a value of my time and attention, our staff's time and attention. I don't know that that'll stay entirely even to where it is. And I think there's good case, there can be arguments that some things may go up. And here's where I'd say that. We're seeing a move, and I think this will continue, that it goes into more in-depth coaching, meaning a coach has to coach more now. There's been maybe acceptance of you walk in a gym in some cases and a coach coaches you through exercises or coaches you in a group, right? Well, now as it's one-to-one, this is more direct. And especially during this time, we're finding our coaches aren't just instructing exercise, they're coaching. They're dealing with mindset and nutrition and recovery like all coaches should do, but it's coming more to the forefront in this environment. And I think that means the practitioner has to be better and the level of service is going to go up. So I expect some things to trend upwards. I haven't seen them drop. With that said, I expect some people are going to go the exact opposite way, and they're going to run their business to go do, hey, we're going to do our online sessions now with 1,000 people for $1. So it'll probably split the market. That's my take.
Good point. Good point. Dino, did you want to jump in again, just offer something after hearing that?
Just I totally appreciate where everybody's coming from. I think, just to be clear, the videos we have offered for free, the virtual training is not. So what has happened is because of the videos, we are getting more virtual training clients, including organizations that want that support. So and it's a limited time. I'm not sure how many we're going to do. We're 12 videos in right now, so I'm not sure how many we're going to do to continue. But that's where we're at. But certainly I appreciate nobody's time. We don't want to sacrifice our time. It was all kind of focused on getting the bigger piece.
Oh, you never know sometimes, right? You don't know what these things could turn into. So I always find that pretty interesting. And I kind of got onto this topic because Sam Feldman and I were talking a bit. Sam, I'm going to get you to jump in here. But it wasn't just about like the money piece and the monetary, like Sam was talking about, like maybe looking at ways of adjusting your career almost like for a legacy in terms of, Sam, you can jump in and talk a bit more about this, but how are you going to change your career, not just from financial purposes, but even just for positioning yourself? Sam?
Right. No, I like how you took it and ran with it. And I think the whole legacy topic too could be another topic another time, probably once we're back to normalcy. I think from what has been said today, I look at it also as value. How can we make ourselves more valuable as a whole? From what we've said, we look at no matter what, games will go on with or without strength and conditioning practitioners, possibly with or without ATs or PTs, even though they shouldn't go on without any of those. So no matter what, sports will exist. How do we make ourselves, though, look more valuable and present ourselves correctly? I know in The Last Dance, for instance, with Michael Jordan, they mentioned when he started lifting, they won. So there's that show of, oh my God, all of this value. However, in the same token, other teams were lifting. They probably were lifting, at least some of them, prior to that too. And I look forward to watching the interview you and Rob did with Alvar Mill. But it's very interesting on how can we add a value, make people see our value more. a lot of times we talk within ourselves as strength and conditioning practitioners, ATs, PTs. We talk science, we talk moving forward, what we're doing. But how do we then impact those above us? Be it, how does a performance director impact the front office, impact all the way up to a CEO of a sports organization to add value to us? Or how do we get our foot in that door as well to move the field forward beyond just talking science and talking to people who are making the decisions at the top of any organization, be it college, pro, and wherever?
Yeah. Do you have a thought on your career path and like how you're gonna move from where you are now?
I I think I have a very long-term goal of wanting to be in one of those like front office situations, because I think that's where I could move the field forward. I think there are a lot of people who are smarter scientifically than me. I sit here and I listen to everyone, and I'm like, someone else here is smarter than me in whatever regard it may be. And I love the experience, for instance, you, Rob, and I wish Bob was on here as well. He brings, because he's become the guy who's an AD and who has that other experience as well. And I think from that standpoint, I don't know what's going to happen with minor leagues. I'm sure we're going to have contraction happen with teams, but I think regardless, I want to make sure I know I have a job. And I would say that prior to even having the job I have, there was definitely pushback from family on going into strength and conditioning. How do you get your foot in that door? And now it's like, well, I want to keep my foot in this door, and then I want to go forward and in a long term be in that front office role to bring the value of strength and conditioning forward. What are the steps in between? I don't know. And I think that's kind of just working on the current day to day, being present and finding a way where you become a head strength coach, a performance director, and whatever else the steps are between performance director and that final role.
Yeah, the family support thing in terms of like going like, hey, I want to be a strength coach is right up there with like I want to be an actor. So yeah. Tom, I wanted you to jump in. There's some chat discussion about platforms for communicating and guiding training, and that's not anywhere near my area of expertise. So I'd love for you to jump in and just kind of share what you've experienced, and other people can jump in as well and kind of talk a bit about those platforms, but it's certainly they're being used more now. Tom?
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, so I work with a group of MLS referees, and kind of by nature, they live everywhere. So a lot of the training is done remote when we don't get together in like camp settings and stuff like that. So we've had to vet some of these programs. And I remember when I started out with this group, some of them were nearly impossible to use and would take hours to kind of get these training programs in and kind of get the point across of what you're trying to actually prescribe. And then you'd get back into a situation where your group is together and you're coaching, and it would be a mess, you know, and you'd have to spend a week trying to get them, you know, where you want them to go when they go away. And but some of these have really evolved well. You know, the ease of entering and getting your point across, and loading videos of yourself, and you know, linking things, and you know, it tracks all kinds of different metrics that you would want to, you know, calculate on your own, which can be quite nice. And I think there was a comment too about, you know, compliance and stuff like that in the NCAA, and some of them are thinking about that and having a function where you can kind of you know, just hit a button for the summer where you know, it's the compliance mode and no one can see any type of reporting or anything like that. So yeah, it's a good point with compliance and safety and all that, but I mean, ultimately it might be something that everyone wants to look at, because it's not much different than sending your athletes an Excel sheet for the summer, you know, in a college setting.
So part of that, like, could I create a training program and then, like you said, have the support videos, use it as a bit of a chat function, but also add surveys and things like that to collect data from them?
Yeah, I mean, you could. Some of them have functions, you know, where you can collect wellness data or RPE directly in the workout. There's video functions where the athlete can video themselves and you know, during, and send it to you for feedback. You can kind of, not in the moment, but you know, retrospectively go back and check in with their journal or whatever and give them comments and feedback about what they need to do next time.
What are some of the best platforms you've seen so far?
So, I mean, I think it's a lot depends on your environment. You know, if you're someone who is focused on, you know, your specific program, there's a couple that are more like program centered, where it's like you're entering the program and you're prescribing this. But there's others that are more like calendar based, where you'll have a calendar and you're loading it based on a calendar. You know, for more like dynamic environments. You know, where the athlete schedule might be changing more than normal, like in a team setting. So I liked, we settled in the ref group with Team Builder, and I've had a lot of success with that one. And I find that they're pretty receptive to feedback too. If you need something, they listen well, which I like for tech platform companies. Another one that I've used in the past, actually when I was an intern, was Bridge Athletic, and that's kind of the one that's a little bit more program centered, if you're going to prescribe off of a program rather than a calendar. So I saw Train Heroic was really good when I reviewed that as well, as a platform for potential use. But also Team Builder was really cheap, so there's always that factor.
Yeah, certainly. And it's, I assume it's subscription based. You pay like a monthly or an annual.
Yeah, they have, I think there's different levels of prescription based on how much functionality you want and, you know, how many athletes you have under your umbrella.
Okay, cool. Has anybody else had any experience with these that wants to jump in and give us some? Robert? Oh, sorry. Just there you go.
You there?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've used some of these. I used Team Builder before, but at the end of the day, in order to really successfully use these platforms, the NCAA has to make rule changes, because during this, right now we're in our summer period. Technically, by the athlete using, we have a heart rate monitoring system that we use currently with our women's soccer team, Beyond Pulse, and it was the most cost-effective system. And technically, when the girls utilize that system and I could see it, it's reporting back, and so can the coach. And so every compliance director is a little different. Some are a little more cautious than others, but the letter of the law is that you can't report back your workouts during the summer period. You know, I think it needs to be done. You know, I'm sending out a program in the summertime and, you know, giving exercises, especially to freshmen who potentially could get hurt doing them. And then yet I can't instruct them on how to do it. So, you know, I think the rules, someone up at the higher pay grade has to get this information, that there has to be some adjustment to the rule, how the strength and conditioning coach can interact with the student athlete during the summer months. I think you need to have rules, don't get me wrong, but I think, you know, to effectively train the athletes and then use these platforms, you need to have rule changes. At least my opinion.
What's the means of doing that in terms of getting to the NCAA and saying, like, listen, we got to start looking at rule changes, particularly as part of this whole event that's happened? Do you have anybody that you can kind of vet that to, and just get that information to and say, hey, we need to lobby?
Yeah, I mean, I've been, you know, speaking to all my peers in the Big East, and my athletic, the director of sports medicine, he's involved with the Big East sports medicine directors to kind of come up with all the return to play kind of models. And just, I'm trying to get it out to as many people who will listen, who potentially is involved in these type of discussions with NCAA rule committee. Because I don't know if there's a representative in our industry at that level.
Yeah.
That could give these individuals who make the final decisions our perspective on the rule. Because anytime I read the rule, they're very ambiguous. You know, all of us can read them and come up with a different interpretation of the rule. You know, it looks very, you know, very gray. You know, you read something and it says, you know, and then someone else, you see a lot of schools doing the total opposite of what the rule says. You know, so that's my frustration, and I don't, it really doesn't answer your question. I don't think. I'm trying to get it out there and trying to kind of get my concern, being in the business for, you know, quite a number of years, that we need to have some sort of rule change.
Yeah.
Or adjustment, a rule adjustment.
Yeah. Well, What it sounds like, and I'll get back to Rob and Ken here. I'll get Rob first. Rob, like it sounds like, even though I intended to talk about like, are people going to like get out of these jobs and move into other jobs? It just sounds like what's happening now is that, hey, we just have to we have to adapt, and we're going to stay in these jobs, but we're going to change the way we're doing things. Is that kind of how you read it as well?
You're going to stay in the job if that's what you desire to do. If that's what your passion is, you're going to stay in the job. You're going to figure it out. Like Francois said before, he's passionate about what he wants to do, but he may have to adapt with his phys ed degree to teach a little bit. But it'll keep him within the field that he desires to pursue. And then when things evolve, we get back to our new normalcy. He probably won't have to teach anymore if that situation arose that he had to do. If people want to be in it, they'll figure out how to be in it. And they're going to have to do that by adapting, So we always adapt, though. Like I said before, whether it's GPS, force plates, price structures, insurance companies, changing reimbursements, whatever it may be, we're consistently adapting with regards to enhancing our business or adjusting so that we can financially survive and everything else in between. We're consistently adapting. And so this is just, again, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, it was a compressed situation of a lot that happened in such a short little time with the unknown at the end regarding where the finish line is. And so, we have this anxiety of, hey, what's going on? Should I get out of it? I would just tell everybody, just hold the course. It's getting better, and we will eventually get out of this, whether it's a vaccine, whether it's by herding, whether it's by a cure, but eventually, just like the 1918 pandemic, the Spanish flu, or just like, SARS or anything else, we'll get through this. There'll be costs and price to pay going through it, but we'll get through this.
And Ken, you're of kind of the same mind. Like this is kind of like the stock market. Like don't freak out, don't sell everything, don't change too much. Just wait it out a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that in general, and Rob, but I'd kind of put it a little differently. Yeah, things will go on. They will change. They'll evolve. And like Rob said, the people that want to do this will find a way to do it. They'll change how they're doing. At the same time, I think, well, like Rob said, this has been condensed down, right? This happened. Stuff that was going to evolve is evolving faster. People that were probably going to question whether they want to do it are going to do it faster, going to do it sooner. Good. Let's go that way. Let's take advantage of that fact that people maybe were hiding from a question they should have asked about their own career, and did they really want to do it? And if not, good. This is a great opportunity to make a change in life. I think that's pretty understandable. And if you want to do it, then make the commitment to evolve and keep moving forward. So it's a forcing function. It can be really stressful, but it tends to, well, it has to create change, and we're going to have that. So I think there's going to be a lot. And I mean, on our side, we're looking forward, on the other hand, to the people that want to come back. We know we have employees that already are going to move on. We've talked to them. We've seen it. It's happening. On the other side, there's some people that are going to be more committed, and they want to be part of it. I also think there's a good chance that we end up with a lot of former college strength and conditioning professionals who now need a job on the private side. So we're expecting some of that as well. But this is going to be a great time for people to change and do some new stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like even just seeing some of the businesses everywhere where they're kind of like, they were, weren't necessarily doing well, profit, and then they're just like, okay, whatever, we're done. Like we're struggling before, but now this gives us the reason to just kind of move on, and you're kind of getting rid of the riffraff. Jimson, I wanted to ask you, like, you're in the tech industry. Is this pretty similar? Like, you can see a company do well, and then boom, they're gone, and people just have to readjust because technology changes so much faster than what we're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I work as a Salesforce partner as my day job, and I've seen Salesforce and all their customers just scramble. Everyone's scrambling because business is not moving at all for a lot of companies. And even Salesforce itself has a lot of new software that they're promoting now. They were pretty quiet at first. I think they gave everyone like 30 days to get over that shock feeling about, hey, I'm out of work, or hey, I'm laid off, I'm furloughed, as we call it here in the UK. But now if you go to to their website, they're really pushing the small business tools. They're really pushing the nonprofit tools, and healthcare is a big thing. As I said a few weeks ago, they're really, really trying to go after customer care using every media, every form you can think of, from not just online video chat with your doctor or healthcare, but they're talking about even WhatsApp chat, SMS chat, Facebook, you name it. I mean, they're really going ape shit over this now, and it's a bit of a panic response, but I think people are starting to wake up now, and that's the purpose, of this call, is like, there's a chance that a lot of us may have to start going through career changes, and I think it's time to think about it and find the right tools and build some critical mass in what you're doing, and go for it. I think I'm hearing some of these guys tonight, and they have wonderful ideas, wonderful products. Of course, the rules at NCAA is blocking some of the dreams, but there's a lot of wonderful ideas that you guys have tonight. And I think it's a matter of just getting an idea, finding a platform, and just build it, and they will come, right? Like the movie.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, everybody seems pretty positive here, and everybody's like, hey, this is a chance to pivot in a positive direction. And I think, every industry's dealing with this. I would hate to be in the restaurant industry right now, right? Like, Rob, what do you think? Like, everybody's dealing with this. We just have to adjust. I'll let Rob finish up here.
Yeah, I mean, so the restaurant industry, I could tell you, speaking for myself personally, with regards to the age group I'm in, and et cetera, I'm not going to be the first person online to go to a restaurant. However, I have been going through takeout, right? Support these restaurants. They've had to adapt, not having sit-down customers, so they do takeout now. It's just a prime example. Now, will they have the financial runway to survive with just takeout? That's yet to be seen. However, restaurants that never had takeout before, when they're reestablished, will probably have sit-down service and takeout service, right? So there was an opportunity here with regards to the restaurant industry. Restaurant industry is very volatile anyway, so this didn't help them. But, again, I just go back to, like what Ken said, I think there's going to be opportunity. The people who really have a passion will find a way to adapt and follow their passion. And those that were sitting on the fence or were planning to get out, that has just been accelerated for them to get out and find a new career. So, I wouldn't dissuade anybody from remaining in whatever field their passion is to keep moving forward. I wouldn't.
Sounds good. Well, thank you everyone for jumping on. And I think, like I said, very positive. I didn't want to have this to encourage people to change careers, but certainly, like Ken and Rob were saying, that people who are on the fence will probably jump off the fence, which is probably good. It's probably a good thing. So thank you very much. And please enjoy the rest of your weekend. I think you guys in the US have a long weekend, right?
Yep.
Okay. So Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy.
Thanks, Derek.
Take care, guys.